Hello, welcome to A Junior, a Senior, and I. I'm joined today by Corentin and Alkis to talk about being a generalist. Alkis, would you mind introducing yourself in sentences or less?
Yes, thank you. My name is Alkis. The full name is Alkiviadis. Yes, I'm Greek. I've been in Brussels for 7 years now. Originally an economist, but then I turned into tech, and now I do everything, and also work as a mixologist sometimes in bars.
Talk about being a generalist.
Yeah, and that's about it, I would say.
Cool. What about you, Corentin?
Well,
Are
hello.
you a mixologist as well?
I am not. Unfortunately, I would be thrilled to be. Thank you for hosting. My name is Corentin Perez-Blanc. I'm French. Came in Brussels 3 years ago. It was at that time I learned to code, I think. And right now I'm a founder and CTO of a company which helps reducing the stress on regulatory issues, I'd say. Mostly anti-money laundering. And I've been doing some investment funds. I've been working in investment funds, studied literature, English literature, did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. Again, topical.
Yeah.
about being a generalist, which leads me to my first question. What does being a generalist mean for you, Corentin?
Well, to me, being a generalist mostly revolves around being curious about everything. Most of the time, it's just picking up on some stuff you really dig and dig deeper, and having this kind of free-spirited way of tackling problems, always trying to find new solutions to problems. Most of the time, it's more about problem solving. I work that way and enjoy finding new ways of tackling challenges.
Yeah, I think Corentin got most of it. For me, it was also about seeing things end to end. But not only caring about my part, but understanding the whole. And that's what, for me, generalist is when, don't only look on your specific job, but also you want to understand where that fits in the context that it fits in. And because then you're probably a curious person, then you also want to understand how the other things work in that context.
Makes sense. And how do you manage to stay being a generalist in a world that feels is tending towards more and more specialized roles? Like, at least in tech, it's hard to find full stack positions. Usually you will be like front end, or even now I see people speaking about back end of the front end of the back end, etc., etc. How do you manage to stay a generalist in that environment?
Actually, it's very hard. It's not an easy path, I think, especially once you start out. I think it's a very steep beginning, because then you are not specialized in anything necessarily, or you might be specialized in something, and that helps a bit. I think if you want to make it a bit more bearable, you might want to pick something then that you have a bit more edge, and then just branch out slowly on other things. And then you become a bit more of a senior generalist, and you actually become an intermediate on a bunch of things.
Yeah.
But probably you keep an edge on one thing. Otherwise, it's very hard, because I remember it was very hard finding a job actually many times.
Yeah.
Because then I would say, yeah, I can do this job. Yeah, I can be an analyst. Yes, I can be a developer. Yes, I can be a developer. And then people also start to not really believe you, because they say, like, you know what, that's not really possible. Or even if they do believe you, they think maybe you are inadequate in a specific position.
Yeah.
So it's very hard actually to, in the job market, in the conventional job market, I think it's very hard. But yeah.
Yeah, and I can join on the more like the beginning of being a generalist. You can get the feeling of you know a bunch of stuff, but you don't know nothing at all. At the same time, it can be quite overwhelming. And finding a job in this situation, you're always gonna get questioned. Your skills are gonna be questioned. Your logic is gonna be questioned. And the beginning part of being a generalist can be quite steep. I really join on that. But it's more about again, curiosity. I would feel like you begin in some way to specialize yourself, and then you tackle the bigger part, and that's how you become a generalist.
I don't think also it's a very conscious choice.
Yeah.
It's just something that happens. I mean, I didn't say to myself, I want to be a generalist. It's just something that happened because because I'm built the way I am, I think. And as Corentin said, I think the main driver of this is curiosity and the need to understand how things work.
I do agree, but there are people that want to specialize. I know people that want to be a React developer or that want to be I don't know, sales for the pharmaceutical industry or whatever, right?
But that's the point. Being a generalist is less by choice, more by a consequence of what
I
you.
don't know if we both have attention deficit or something. That
Maybe.
could be.
That could be some.
I never got diagnosed for that, so that could be a part of it. But yeah.
Corentin, you mentioned that uh, you get more questioned, or at least at the beginning, when you present yourself as a generalist. Like people put more into question how skilled you are in certain aspects. Is it because you are exposed to more places? Like if I'm a front end, people can own, or if I'm a, a marketing person, people can only question me about marketing. Whereas if I'm a marketing person that also does sales and also codes on the side with no code or low code tools, I can be questioned by all those people.
Yeah, maybe it comes from that. Well, the more time passes, the less I get these questions because I've built them and I've built the confidence in my skill sets and I can explain. But you're always gonna get some question like, how do you manage to do all these things and still be like have some performance in them? And like, I feel it's normal. Yeah, you get confronted with a lot of different fields, and they don't really share any common part. Like you go from sales to product to tech and then to marketing and stuff. Sure, they are in the business side of it, but it's like different logics, different approaches. But yeah, it's like the more you build on top of them, the less the question are difficult to answer.
Yeah, I think it's a very steep start, but if you make it, I think then you have a big advantage in many ways against other people who are purely specialized. Depends on what you want to do. I mean, depends on what you're doing. But you at least you can have a strategic advantage in the sense that you can see a bit the bigger picture quite more easily.
Yeah, it makes sense. And is it something that I understood that is something that you kind of fell into, both of you, but the learning, but because to be a generalist, you need to at least learn in a paintbrush style. I think it was reading Kent Beck's blog that I had that, where he drew a metaphor where when you're painting with a paintbrush, you will do a line and drippings will fall, right? And some of them will go deeper, some of them will stop before. And he said that that could be applied to learning, where you will do a lot of subjects and then you will go deeper in some and not as deep in others. Is learning something that you do consciously, in the sense that, okay, I would like to know more about marketing, so I'm buying a book or I'm looking at this video or whatever, or more opportunistically, there is this opportunity in your company, oh, I can do that and I will learn on the job?
I would say yes and no. Depends. Sometimes some topics I need to learn them because I have a real use case, a real problematic that I can solve with only that kind of skill set. And sometimes just me going through the internet and I find something I think it's cool, and then I spend 4 hours digging into it and began to code something with it. It just happens.
For me, it's it's a bit like that, but I do think that you really need to like learning.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just not gonna work, because a big part of it is just learning all the time. Not only for your job, but you need to like it in general in your life. You don't have to be a fast learner necessarily. For me, it's not about speed; it's about consistency. You have to to like it, and you have a method, even if it doesn't have to be the fastest method or the most. I don't think I'm a very fast learner. I mean, I'm pretty okay, but I don't do any special techniques or whatever. I just do it a lot. I just spend a lot of time learning new things.
But in my opinion, the learning phase of a new skill, there is also this thing like being a generalist is more about being secure about saying to yourself, I'm never going to specialize on that. I'm never going to know all about the topic, and that's okay. And I just need to know that specific stuff that I like about it, and learning that, being aware that there are so many stuff that I will not understand. Well,
Yeah.
is like that.
I'm not really thinking like that necessarily. I mean, I end up doing that, but I never start thinking like that. But yeah, you go as deep as it gets you.
Yeah.
And then you might leave, you might stay more, you might come back later on a specific thing. Especially in the tech industry now, like everything is so interconnected also. So it's not
True.
completely also irrelevant nowadays. It's a bit more like closer to the forest. Like.
You mentioned that uh, you allocate, or what the impression I got is that you allocate Alkis quite a lot of time to learning. Is that something I understood that you don't have a particular strategy in mind, but is it something structured that you do? Is it X time per day, per week, or is it just more I like learning, so I come upon opportunities and I learn?
I think it's just for me personally, just I try to always have a method,
Okay.
but I end up just moving from method to method, you know. So the only structured thing is that I always try to have some method, but I never really end up on one method. I mean, I've tried taking notes or not taking notes or video things or. But what I usually try to do, because I do have like a day job nowadays, so what I usually like to the most structured part of my learning is the weekend.
Okay.
So what I like to do is I go to a cafe I like, or have like several like studying spots, also to get out of the house a bit. So for me, it's more like a ritual.
Mm.
So I go there and I study until my laptop dies.
Okay.
So it's like that's like around 5 hours, for example. So I do that every weekend, and sometimes both days. So that's kind of my ritual, you know.
Yeah, you made it a habit.
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
been reading like not so long ago Atomic Habits.
Yeah, brilliant too.
and
Yeah.
wow, what a good read.
Yeah.
And just you create rituals and you get in the habit of doing something and
Yeah.
something like learning.
And at the end of the weekend, you have studied 5 hours or 10 hours, which is a lot.
Yeah, it's about consistency, right? Imagine doing that like every weekend.
Yeah, but even like you can say be consistent and study 10 minutes a day, it would be less than what you're doing. So not only is it consistent, it's impressive, I'd say.
Yeah, but even if it's like compound interest. You
Yeah.
start with 10 minutes a day, and at some point you're gonna tell yourself, yeah, 10 minutes, I can do 10 more. And
I mean, I've been doing this for a while, I have to say. I mean, I ended up there.
Yeah.
When I started, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do. Now it's a bit more targeted, and so that's why maybe it's a bit easier to keep a more rigid method. And I also try to kind of positively reinforce myself also after having read the same book. Like making a positive feedback. So, for example, I go to this nice place I like, I get some nice coffee, and maybe I get a brunch there also. So I remove some problems while doing it. So I'm kind of incentivizing myself, like, hey, this is a nice moment, you know.
Sure.
Doesn't feel really like work. It feels more like an exploration.
Yeah, and as you said, you need to enjoy learning. If not, you're just not gonna learn, right? And Corentin, do you also have a structure like that, or is it more on the spot? I need this skill, so I'm gonna acquire it.
It's more intense learning sessions. I tend to enjoy a topic, try to learn everything I can in the shortest amount of time, spend hours on it, and when I'm done, I'm done. Just use it, and like most of the time, I learn about something. I spend a week focusing on it, and then I just put it in the background, and whenever I need it, I just come back to it because I know it exists. I have some things about it, and
Yeah, and you have the references.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's for sure. Also, when I do it, also. I go in somewhere,
Yeah.
then I just switch.
Mm,
Maybe
makes sense.
attention disorder.
Maybe that's something we should look into. Yeah.
Okay, and is there a topic that, or a subject, or a profession that would make you want to specialize?
I mean, I don't know, not yet.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been quite into learning about robotics, so I don't know. I don't know how that will turn out. I don't know if that will require specialization. Maybe it's going to be the opposite. Maybe because it's kind of a subject that combines many different.
Yeah, I was gonna say robotics feels like the generalist dream, right? Because you do mechanics.
You do mechanics, a bit of machine learning, a bit of. So I don't know. No, I haven't felt the need either. If anything, I just keep expanding because I feel like I have pushed through the tough years, of just not being enough on something. Because now I've reached the part, at least I feel I've reached the part that I'm quite good at many things now.
Yeah.
So that's, gives you a bit of safety.
Yeah,
Because if I wanted to find a job as a backend developer in the end, I can find a job as a front-end developer. I can find a job as a DevOps. That's kind of, if it comes to that,
Yeah.
you have this security, but that security gives me even more, power to continue on this path. Actually,
Yeah, to me, I would stay in the entrepreneurship because, like, to me, it's the generalist dream. You can just build something you focus on for 3 years, try to sell it, you try to iterate, you get it's a big experiment building
for
it.
me too. I mean, I told you in private conversations that for me, I'm also going to entrepreneurship. I think that's going to be my last job. And I think as Quanta said, that's really when you can shine, because then it's about seeing the big picture. I think a lot when you try to build something to add value. It's
In the beginning, at
in
least.
the beginning, yeah, and it's about organizing other people.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a generalist really shines, is in this kind of entrepreneurship context.
To play the devil's advocate on that, I do agree that in the beginning it's the generalist dream. At some point, you have people that report to you, and I feel that then your specialization becomes managing, which is a specialization in and out of itself, right? Like it has a required set of skills, knowledge that you need to acquire, etc., etc. So I do agree with you until a certain point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can see it at the most of the time when you reach the scale up phase. Yeah, that's the moment you're gonna have to manage a big team. You're gonna have to move into a management position. You're not as free as you would be in a startup, where you can pivot every 2 weeks. It's fine. Now you need to implement some processes, and yeah, it could be more frustrating. And you have many people who are kind of the generalist dream, who just focus on launching projects, reselling them, and moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be me. I need to make my experiments.
That was my feeling.
Yeah.
That was what I mean, I'm just starting out as an entrepreneur, so I don't really know what's gonna be, but that's the plan. At least was what you said, basically, just doing something, selling it, and just doing something else.
Or maybe not. I mean,
Or maybe not. I mean,
yeah.
if you reach this stage, I don't know how it's gonna be.
Because in the same vein, without the entrepreneurship dream, I feel like the same thing could be achieved as chief operations officer or something. Like every startup, even if you haven't launched it, needs an everything guy. Like I've always been impressed by those people, right? Because I consider myself a bit of a generalist in code, but I'm not willing to do marketing and sales. But every startup I've been, there is an everything guy, or an everything person, a girl or a guy that throw a problem at them, and that's it. No,
Yeah, the problem solver.
Yeah.
the problem solver.
The thrill of the hunt.
Yeah. I would feel happy about this position. I've encountered it, and yeah, it is a cool position. I don't know, like, again, it's difficult to give a tag on it. We can call it chief operations officer. We can call it the problem fixer, or whatever. It's like being able to move freely in that space. True.
Yeah, that's also a problem with being a journalist. It's hard to put yourself in conventional tags and conventional. It's very hard to work in this specialized world.
Yep.
Because they ask you, "What are you?" Like, what, like, But I'm like, it's a bit complicated.
You cannot present yourself as
Yeah, like-
jack of all trades. I do
Yeah,
a bit
like-
of this, a bit of that. Yeah, but what do you do?
Yeah.
I called that position the Camille because the first person I encountered that had that position was Camille, and he was doing it extremely well. And so now in every company, oh, so you're the Camille of this company, right?
But it is true what you said, Pablo, about managing. It's quite a specific thing, and I had the management position before, and that's why I didn't continue in that path because it was becoming too much about HR. And I felt I still wanted to keep my hands dirty, you know, be the person who does the stuff, not
I need to be in
like
the
organizing other people who do the stuff. Yeah. At least at this point, still, I want to keep doing that.
Yeah, I see that because I made the same escape that you did when I was in a management position. I think I'm ready to try again. But yeah, I was.
I did really enjoy it. It,
Yeah.
it was, and I had never done it, so you know, it was a nice experience. But yeah, just pausing it for a while.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But again, it depends on the. I get the feeling like this management position. It depends on the freedom. It depends on the structure you are in, because there is many type of management, many
Yeah.
things you can try out.
I mean, it was a startup,
Yeah.
IT startup, so yeah, you do have a lot of freedom, but also a lot of chaos.
I'll go. You have to be confident in the chaos.
Yeah.
Getting a bit off topic, I know that I also like learning. I am not as structured as any of you because it's just, oh, a subject comes and I read about it and there is no goal behind it usually. But I know I get obsessed about a topic for a while, right? Does that happen to you guys as well?
All the time.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
Always.
okay, that's an answer.
Yeah. My latest obsession is front end, actually.
Okay,
It's something I just could never do well.
okay.
And I said, you know what? Never did it well because you never spent the time. I don't know. With the back end, I had a bit of a more natural predisposition, I'd say. And now I'm just going through all the front end frameworks and just trying stuff, and it works. You just have to put the hours in.
Yeah, sure. And is it like, do you do the front end coding wise, or are you trying to get also some part of design in your tool belt?
Just barely design, I would say.
Okay.
Like, just barely good enough design.
Mhm.
I don't want to innovate in that space.
Sure.
I just want to be able to do stuff that are user friendly and modern enough.
Professional looking.
Yeah. That's my limit. I think I have to also understand my limitations personally, and I think
That's the hard part, being aware that you cannot do everything.
yeah, you cannot do everything. Yeah, you cannot do everything.
It can
So
be frustrating.
I tried design stuff, but it's really not my strength, and it's not something I wanna get great at. But I think I'm good enough, and that's fine.
But even getting good enough, it's because I enjoy front end and I know how, like, give me a design and I can basically implement it, no problem.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Don't ask me to do a design if you want a website that doesn't look like the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. That's a bit my experience as well.
90s, that's the design that works.
I read I think it was a study, I'm not sure, but I read something somewhere. I have a lot of dumb facts in my head that all the good things when you were a teenager, but that applies to everyone. So most people think that the good music was when they were a teenager. Good design was when they were a teenager. So yeah, the 90s are the best for sure. In being a generalist, is AI helping you, and how? Like, do you use it every day to try to automate things? Do you use it to try to find subjects to learn?
It really depends. To me, I mostly use AI to get rid of the white page, to begin stuff, and then I go on my own. I use it also as a search bar
Okay.
most of the time. But I tend to better work with just Google.
Yeah.
Just looking for stuff, looking for references, etc. AI mostly, well, of course, I use AI to automate some stuff like writing emails I don't want to write, etc., etc. But But for the generalist side of it, it's more about getting rid of the white page, and then I can work on it. I have a start. It gives me the head start.
I just to because we have a person that actually works with data with us. When I say AI, I mean large language models.
Yeah.
Because if Alkis was someone pedantic, which he's not, he could have told me, no, that's not all AI. It's the latest AI, but it's not all AI.
It has been around for some. I mean, AI in general, yeah, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But for me, if I maybe can talk a bit more specifically about tech and programming,
Huh?
Yeah.
I think it has helped me a lot, and I think this is gonna change a bit. I think you're gonna, while in the past, I think those generalist people, they were a bit more scarce. You didn't see that many around. I think that's probably about to change because of the AI, because you think it's gonna make it much easier for someone to be that, because you can a bit more easier, I think, bridge some gaps in of knowledge in specific sectors. For example, if I just take the software engineering part, let's say you wanna be full stack, right? And you're quite good at backend already, but maybe you're not the best at front end, but you can still do stuff. But then you can maybe have the CSS written for you, or at least the first part of the CSS. Or if you're not sure for a specific module of an app, like okay, I have done a lot of crude stuff, but then I never did authentication. And then you can very quickly. I mean, normally you could, you would Google and find some stuff, but then you can very quickly, a bit more, even tailored to your project, get some answers.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I think AI will revolutionize. At least it has done it with me. Using GitHub Copilot like all the time now in VS Code, and it has really improved my productivity. And I did have a lot of gaps on many things, but just haven't done everything. So yeah, I mean, the authentication part was an actual example. It's like, how do you do JWT authentication? Like, I don't know.
I actually agree with you that for me, AI tends to reduce to the mean, right? Like if you're really good about a subject, AI will frustrate. Like, the current iteration of generative AI will frustrate you to no end, right? Because you will nitpick everything it says, and it's like, no, yeah, Ruby does it, like that's not idiomatic, or yeah, no, I know better architecture than whatever. But in subjects that you just know enough to be dangerous, but you're not good at, it will reduce you to the mean. So it will bring you up and be able to advance quicker.
That's it.
I get the feeling that it doesn't push the boundaries of the ceiling, but more bring like straighten the gap.
You cannot, I think, benefit too much if you're completely ignorant.
Yeah.
It's very good at bridging gaps, but if the gap is too wide, it won't help you. At the end of the day, you just need to make the gap shorter. That's the traditional work, like just learning stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. And doing the sports metaphor, a player can be either a ceiling raiser or a floor raiser, and the AI raises the floor, right? Like it won't push you to new heights, but your falling step is higher than it was before.
The only thing that it could help you maybe push is by reducing the barriers to entry on coding, for example.
Getting more time.
Yeah, or especially in the beginning, people might get stuck too easily on whatever reasons that they don't understand, and coding itself has a very steep entry.
Yeah.
So it might help smoothen a bit that, and remove smaller maybe blocks. So like it's a bit smoother even for someone a bit more senior to remove some small blocks that might arise here and there. I think that's, and then then you have more energy to focus on the real challenge. So in that sense, it might help you also push to the ceiling a bit, but not powered by AI, but just maybe help clearing the road. It still has to come from you, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Are there, in your opinion, traits? Well, you said one half jokingly that was ADHD, but other than that self-diagnosed ADHD, are there any traits that, in your opinion, make for a good generalist?
Curiosity, for sure. Like that's number one. But also, I feel like you need to be quite not humble, but say you don't mind getting hurt, not understanding stuff. You actually like the pain of not understanding and wanting to know more, and being able to recognize like some stuff it will never click, and it's okay. There are gonna be people way better than you at everything, but at least you can talk to them. To me, being a generalist, it's more about building bridges between people because you know their reality and you know the reality of people you connect with.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we talked about some of that. Like curiosity, I think is probably the biggest one, and like learning also. That
Yeah.
goes a bit, hand by hand. I think you just need those for sure. If you don't have those, it's just impossible. But then maybe having a method, someone with a bit of a method to things, because then it is quite time consuming. So it's better if you can do it a bit more consistently. Maybe that's more of an optional thing. But also patience, I think, helps a lot. I mean, I guess with most things, but yeah, you need to be a bit patient and open-minded. Yeah.
What would you say is the weirdest skill that has helped you professionally? Like, that some skill you picked up because you're just curious and, oh fuck, this came up really well in this particular instance, or
Well, it's not a practical skill per se, but it's the way to interact with people. I got the habit of saying hi in a very friendly way to every people I encounter without even knowing them. And actually, it allows me to connect more with them, to get to know more about them, and to get passionate about what they are working with.
Yeah.
And that introduces me to the stuff.
I can affirm that that is the case, because when we first met, I don't know if it was true or not, but you sounded really passionate about what I was doing.
What's passion?
Yeah, but what I mean is that it came across that way, so it pushed me to talk way more, which, like it or not, opened some horizons for you, right? Like, just because we're different, I will talk about things that are different than what you're used to seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And the conversation is for me the one of the best way to learn. Like you talking to me about something you really experience, really struggle and work with. It's like, okay, this person is an expert at what it's doing.
I think it really shines the network, because you, as a journalist especially, you need to rely on other people to help you on the things that you're maybe not the strongest. So the skills that I picked up, coming back to that, for me it's similar thing. I mean, I've worked a lot in bars,
Okay.
mostly in my youth. So then you kind of learn how to talk to people. It's kind of the same skill if you want, and you learn how to how to listen.
Yeah.
And actually, especially in the tech, I think the soft skills are not great normally.
Yeah, sure.
So if you have like a good tech, like a strong technical skill set, and that you combine it with a strong soft skill set, I think that's really giving you an edge. And for me, I really trained that soft skill set in bars.
Yeah, spending time in bars.
Yeah.
I do agree. I talked to some people that were starting their careers, and they were asking me like, how did you get how do you get your first job? Like, what is the skill that will make you stand out? And I sincerely said what I believe is that having a good interview game. Like, at the end of the day, is a confidence game. Just being able to present as someone confident that can talk to people will open the door. Like, it will make the difference. Whereas pure technical stuff will not, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're working with people,
Yeah.
It's always people business. Huh?
Yeah.
Is it something that you seek out in your companies to talk to your colleagues regularly, to build a network? Like, it sounds really cynical to say it that way, but to build relationships with the people you work with?
For me, it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, I was really, I needed to know the people I'm working with. I know some people are better at having this professional mask, and I'm not judging it. I think it has its benefits. Some people just come to work, they have their work profile, and their private life is like completely private, and that's fair. But for me, it's not nothing at all. It's like I'm just, it's the same thing. in the job and in the work, and I'm getting quite close to the people I'm working, at least closer with, and I like to know them better. Yeah, because for me it really helps me to do the professional stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting involved.
Yeah,
You're part of a team.
yeah.
So of course you're gonna do more for them, and you're gonna what?
Yeah, sure. And it's easier to say, "Hey, buddy, help me with that," than "Dear Mr. Thompson,
That's it.
could you please, if you don't mind?"
Yeah, you go by the office, you have a good chat, and then
Well, we're struggling on that. Can you help me, mate? Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it.
yeah,
It's better than hey, do you have a minute, please? Can we arrange a meeting?
And is it something that you try to structure, or that comes ad hoc? Like, okay, I'm gonna be more friends with the people that quote unquote take more coffees.
It was more conscious for me at first. Used to be naturally friendly with people, but then I stopped because stuff happened.
Mm.
And quite recently, I told myself like I should make the conscious effort to be more friendly to people, more open. Takes some time to grab a coffee, grab a lunch, something. Now it's more natural again. It came back, and yeah, now it's more natural.
Yeah, for me too. I think it's quite natural. It has always been. I think that's kind of my personality. It's built in the personality.
But I ask because for me, I can pass as someone that naturally can speak to people, but it's a bit of a struggle to talk to people I don't really know. And I actually put in place a system almost everywhere I went where, okay, every X time I want a coffee with this person, this person, this person. And I was just curious if you guys had also a system put in place to actually build those personal relationships, right?
Not really for me. Not really for me.
Not a real system, just making the effort of when some people tell, "Oh, we are gonna grab a beer or something with the colleagues,"
Join
saying, "Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Count me in."
it's about joining
Yeah.
joining efforts like that. I mean, I do remember I was a very shy kid, so I did actually work on not being shy. Like when I was around 20 or something, I think I had my biggest first reconstruction, if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And which was also when I started working at those bars. It was part of it. That was a concept like how can I expose myself a bit more, And then it's like, yes, just get a job at the bar, and then there's no way out. This you just have
You
to
need to talk to people.
you need to talk to people. You need to to find ways to express yourself better.
Mhm.
So that was work for me. Now it's natural because I did this work back then.
I think we haven't met the same barmans because not all barmans I've seen are friendly and outgoing, but
I think in Greece the service level is quite high.
true.
In the West, the service is really bad.
It's quite different in France. Yeah, generally speaking.
Yeah, it depends on the places. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad things in Greece, but I think we did figure out hospitality.
I think you figured out a lot of things. Greece is quite a cool country, to be fair.
And tax
Except football, but that's a whole other discussion. Okay, I have one last theme subject that I would like to broach. We kind of touched that a bit at the beginning, but if you were in front of a person that has that, like, okay, I'm fresh out of school and I know I don't want to specialize in something, and I want to be a bit jack of all trades. People have told me it's bad. What advice would you give them?
Do something and get passionate about it and try to produce something out of it and try to go as far as you can with it. If you're losing interest, it's okay, but try to go through and keep the learning and move on to something else. And yeah, at some point, if you work on something, at the end of it, you're gonna have you're gonna end up with something. At least it's gonna be some experience, some knowledge. I don't know about studies. Well, I only did 3 years of studies, and afterwards just opportunities. I went to talk to people. I ended up working in an investment fund. Got involved in the Salesforce ecosystem because I got interested in it, etc., etc. And just keep on doing it until you find something that really drives you, and you're gonna end up with a lot of stuff. And there you go. You're a generalist. of some kind.
You said Pablo right after high school, right? Yeah, for me, I mean, most people right after high school, you have this pressure. I need to go to university or something, and I maybe my first advice would be don't necessarily feel that pressure. There is time. I mean, you are young. You don't have to go to university straight away
Yep.
if you don't really know what you want to do, because at the end of the day, it's going to be more of a waste of the time. But I think experimenting is very important. So try experimenting with things. Maybe even going to a specific university could be an experiment. Let's try this, for example. Maybe it's nice. If it's not nice, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't feel that experimenting is committing all the way. Just because you enrolled in a university doesn't mean you have to follow through. Especially nowadays, I feel that those kind of certifications are less and less important. I don't know.
Depends on the subject.
Depends on the
On the
subject.
topic. But
for us, for example, in tech, we didn't really.
And also depends on the job you're looking for. I would say that it is important to have a good certification if you're aiming for a corporate position, because
Maybe.
they will never hire you. But effectively in startups and stuff, it's more project oriented.
Yeah.
You want someone who can get its hands dirty, I would say.
Yeah, but also you can always go to university later. I think. I mean it's not something you cannot do. Maybe for me, it's more about keep experimenting to figure out a bit more the ballpark of where you want to end up. Because at the end of the day, you have to kind of choose like some sort of even broad but area. You cannot just do everything. I mean, not as a young person, at least. You have a lot to learn. Maybe at 50, and if you continued your learning from 18 to 50, maybe then you can do like 10 jobs.
Sure, no, and even you guys as generalists, like you're not doing archaeology, right? You're in the ballpark, like
Friends in archaeology. Most of my friends when I was in my university were archaeologists. I don't know why. Just ended up with them.
Yeah, but to me, basically, it's keep experimenting, and you can always just do a job for a living that just sustains you while you pursue other things on your free time. That's also fine. And trusting the generalist, it's gonna come. It takes time to build that value.
Yeah, don't be afraid to take the time. Realize you have the time, but do something with that time.
Yeah, just don't waste time. Yeah.
Don't waste it. Yeah.
it's what I was gonna say. I think that advice sounds really good for 5 years ago me. But time at some point becomes scarce, depending on your life choices. But now I have a kid. I still love learning, etc., etc. But my time to learn or to switch careers has shrunk, right? So the don't waste time part, I think, is also important. That Corentin was saying.
Especially when you're out of high school.
Perfect. That's it. That's it. That's where you get to experiment. That's where you get to try different things. I think it's quite important.
Yeah, you can.
No, not even if you don't, doesn't have to be a generalist thing. Whatever you do. For me,
Just figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, the advice for anyone really. Just try different things.
Yeah, sure, and I agree with you that I was more generalist before being a tech person, because I had studied business, and it's, in my opinion, the generalist studies, because you touch a bit of marketing, a bit of economics, a bit of I don't know, whatever. Whereas in code, I'm a generalist in code, but so I specialized late in that sense. So you always have time to specialize, right?
That's what I feel.
Yeah, some people become specialists at 40 years old, 45.
Cool. Thank you very much to both for your time. I think we can end the podcast here. It was an absolute pleasure having you.